Hi, welcome to Actor Spotlight. I'm Jean Yoon.
And I'm David Gale, and we are here today to talk to...
Mark Little.
Oh, man.
Comedian, writer, voice artist.
And an award-winning comic.
Mm-hmm. And you will, if you've been watching CBC, you will have seen him and his partner in crime, Andrew Bush, in Cavendish on CBC.
Which you can watch on Gem, their new app.
Yes.
So it's a great interview. He's just a wonderful character.
Funny guy.
Yeah. Lots of heart.
Have a listen. All right, here we are with Mark Little, who is telling us why Andy Bush is his
son,
spiritual dad.
Yeah, two very different takes on what I was saying there. Yeah.
It's only 3 years older than you, though.
Yeah, a few years. I'm not sure exactly.
Are we allowed to say that? The difference in age? Is it some kind of...
Yes.
Is it going to screw with IMDb?
I embrace it. Wikipedia's got my age wrong.
Does it really?
Yep. Well, it's weird because it says my date of birth and then it says my age, and my age does not match up with my date of birth.
Oh, I thought which one's correct?
My date of birth.
I thought they were somehow attached to that. It just sort of changes. It has to change. You have to go in there and change your age every year.
I don't know how Wikipedia works. I've never edited anything.
It's Gremlins.
It's Gremlins. Yeah. And some of these Gremlins are smarter than others.
Mm-hmm, that's true.
If Gremlins has taught us anything, it's that Gremlins come in all shapes and sizes. There's lady Gremlins. There's charming Gremlins.
Yes, and there's one of those with sharp teeth that want to eat your ankle.
That's right. There's a Gremlin with a gun.
Mm-hmm.
There's Gremlins, sneak attack Gremlins. And
that's right.
There's
movie director Gremlins.
Yeah. Well, most of them are
snowplow operator
Pizza
Gremlins.
Delivery Gremlins.
Yes.
That's right.
They're the ones who mess up your pizza delivery. They don't actually deliver your pizza.
They're the
they
ones.
just make sure your pizza doesn't arrive the way it's supposed to arrive.
That's right.
Gremlins with narcolepsy.
That's right. Sleepy Gremlins.
Mm-hmm. Sleepy Gremlins.
So anyway,
the
Gremlins at Wikipedia have it all confused, and I'm happy to be contributing to that vis-a-vis Andy Bush's age now.
I see. Well, if the Wikipedia date of birth is correct, your date of birth, then I was in college when you were born.
I'm into it.
That's cool. That's cool.
The thing is, the podcast, it's the great leveler. We don't, people can't see us.
That's right.
We could be, hunched over with no teeth. They have no idea. Well,
and we are.
And we are.
Some of us.
Some of us.
So you've just come off a great season with Cavendish, with 8 incredible episodes of Cavendish.
Hilarious.
And hilarious episodes, and an ACTRA Award win. Congratulations.
Thank you.
It was very satisfying. But just before we started rolling, I started going on about how much I love the show because it's so demented, and how it's set in PEI. Two brothers who you're the one with all the crazy ideas.
Yeah, I'm the charmed boy.
Mm-hmm.
The charmed boy. And the strangest adventures. I think where I had to actually press pause because I was laughing so hard at one point, because was it Carolyn Taylor comes in this sort of Handmaid's Tale meets Anne of Green Gables moment, and is just some of the stuff you guys were doing so high concept and so funny.
That's nice.
And the dynamic between you and Andrew is really hilarious.
Oh yeah, that's as old as time for us.
Is there still a lot of laughter in the writers' room?
Yeah. I mean, the writer's room was great. It's like a little bit of a chore because none of us had, with the exception of one of the writers, none of us had worked in like narrative half hour before. Mm-hmm. So it was really like, there's a lot of like funny ideas and then trying to figure out, but does that work within the rules that we're establishing, and how do you establish rules? There's a lot of like big picture writing philosophy.
Who guided you on that?
I guess I was mostly the one in charge. I had worked a lot in like 11-minute storytelling, so I was just trying to apply what I'd learned. And then Andy and I had written some scripts during the development process. So I had a sort of basic handle on how I wanted to do it, but I wasn't 100% sure how to pull it off.
Mm-hmm.
But it would be a lot of things, people saying like a really funny joke, and then you're like, I think that's like 1 degree too cartoonish for our world.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like trying to find that exact perfect tonal line.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Degrees of cartoonishness.
Yeah.
You have experience with cartoons too. So.
I do, yeah. Most of my 11-minute writing is in cartoons.
Yeah. Where you have a different boundary.
You do, but you don't. You have to still devise your own rules. You know, you hear like them talk about the old Simpsons writers' room, and they were like, "How stupid is Homer allowed to be?" And it's like, you gotta know, like, you can't make them. You can't make them just as stupid as you want. You still got to be within within the rules that you establish, even if those rules are like people can fly. It's like, well, can they fly to the moon? Can they fly to Saturn? Yeah. Can animals fly? Can everyone fly? Or you still like, you think that the goofier you make something, the less rules matter, but actually they kind of matter more because now you got to invent your own rules as opposed to working within the rules of like gravity, physics, you know. Real world, like stuff that would apply to any normal sitcom. It's like once you push over one domino, you've got to figure out how everything else falls. Yeah.
What about Rick and Morty? You watch that ever?
I love it.
They bend time and space.
And then they work so hard to figure out what it all means every time they do a little bending. And it's fun. It's fun to see.
Do you think they work backwards? Like they do something and then say, how can we make this work?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. I think so.
And that's Dan Harmon, right?
Yeah, Dan
He's
Harmon.
Crazy.
He's
just full out crazy.
Yeah, he's like he's the sitcom's A Beautiful Mind, for sure. He sees equations in the grease paint on his window.
Wow.
So you and Andrew Bush have been collaborating for what, about 10 years now?
Yeah, over 10 years.
Wow. Yeah. And how did you two meet?
In Halifax, I was doing a sketch show, and then he came and saw it. He was just visiting back from Toronto. Yeah. But he's from there originally.
But you're not from there originally. You're from... BC.
Well, that's a far way from there. Yeah. How did you get there?
Did you run away from home?
Yes.
As far as he could get.
I traveled across Canada performing Littlest Hobo, Good Deeds in every town I came across. And then moving on the moment they wanted me to lay down roots. And I ended up the furthest I could at grad school.
Oh, grad school. Dalhousie?
Dalhousie. Yeah. The only school that will give you to my knowledge, that will give you a scholarship for a English Lit Master's program. So I chased that money. I chased the free ride.
And you got it?
I got the free ride. It lasts for 1 year. It lasts for the duration of your coursework. And also they give you a couple of months to finish your thesis within that. And if you don't finish your thesis, then you have to start paying. That's how they get you. So I paid for 2 semesters beyond that, and then I was like, I don't think I'm going to finish this thesis. I'll see you later.
What was your thesis? Do you mind saying?
It was on the writing of Paul Auster.
Paul Auster.
Now, if you've never heard of him, that's fine. I, at a certain point, came to realize that I didn't think his work was necessarily worthy of a thesis.
Again, you didn't get the name and then work backwards to try and make it fit.
No, and I should have. Like, that's what they say. Like, every grad student at a certain point hits a wall where they realize, like, that what you're writing doesn't necessarily need to exist. Most of us are, like, in our early 20s when we're doing it, mid-20s, so it's not like we have a ton of experience to offer the world of scholarship. But it's still hard to get over that hump of being like, oh, I'm literally churning out useless crap. But that's what they say. It's like, well, the thesis is not for the world. Nobody's going to read it, except in very rare instances. It's for you. You do it for you. But it's hard to have that perspective when you're inside it.
Yeah, it's really shocking to confront your own irrelevance.
Oh, my goodness.
I would say that's exactly right.
Yeah. And isn't there a Google site where it's all academia? There's a Google platform that's all academia. It's all...
That makes sense. It didn't exist when I was doing this, but... that sounds reasonable.
Yeah.
Okay, so you were a grad student, a serious like master's lit student.
I wouldn't say serious, but yeah.
And then, so is this when did the comedy start? Was it your rebellious thing, or did the comedy? Comedy's always been there. It's got to have always been there.
Yeah. Well, I started doing improv in high school, and then it kind of threaded through, and it was just a hobby. And then that's why I ultimately, among other reasons, I guess, but the ultimate reason that I dropped out of doing my grad school was because I wasn't working on my thesis. I was writing sketches. I was getting into sketch comedy. And it felt very stupid, but I couldn't deny that that's what I really wanted to do. So I was just doing it. I would sit down to write like a
You made the right choice. We don't know who Paul Auster is, but you make millions of us laugh.
More people have talked about Paul Auster in this podcast.
We're doing Paul Auster real dirty. We are coming at him.
Did you do theater sports in high school?
I did.
Yeah.
No, sorry, I didn't. I did Canadian improv.
Right.
Which is sort of similar.
Yeah, it is similar. And then did you go on to theater sports ever?
No, like in Vancouver.
Yeah, in
theater
Vancouver,
sports?
yeah.
No, I always wanted to, but then I just got involved with a different sort of strain of improv out there, and then left before I could ever audition for that. But yeah, I think what I got into was a little bit more of like an artsy, cultish strain of improv.
Artsy, cultish improv.
Yeah.
Describe that.
Well, so like if theater sports is like what I would describe as like, how would you describe it? Like it feels like whose line is it anyway? Sort of pure entertainment. People, it's kind of like the comedy club of improv, you know, like going to a Yuck Yucks or going to any other comedy club, but improv version of that. Very short scenes, contained, maximum punch, whatever. And then, in basic terms, short form. And then I got involved with long form. And it's not like theater sports didn't dabble in long form and I didn't dabble in short form, but it was like the stuff that I got into was very like heady and like a lot of, feeling it out.
That's good.
A lot of stuff that at its worst is unwatchable, but at its best feels pretty creative.
Like Heralds, long form Heralds?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Derived from the Herald,
right.
Yeah. And that sort of dealt close, like do heroin and do improv kind of.
But without
world.
the heroin.
Minus the heroin.
Or so you say.
I'm teasing it.
Then you actually mentioned Yuck Yucks, but you have a bit of association with Yuck Yucks, don't you?
Yeah, I'm technically on the roster.
You're technically on the roster, but you'd have to gig there in order to be on the officially on the roster? Or?
No, I'm officially technically on the roster.
And how did you get on their roster?
They signed me after I won this their stand-up competition in 2009. I think.
Yeah,
a long time ago now.
And was your comedy more Yuck Yucks-esque?
I don't know. I don't know if it was significantly. It was different from what I'm doing now, but and maybe it was a bit more palatable to a sort of comedy club crowd because I had come I've got no problem with Yuck Yucks style comedy and I respect it. If I was as diligent with my stand-up now as I was then I would be trying to make it palatable to that audience because there's so much value in performing for people who, in my case, are nothing like me usually. That's my experience performing in comedy clubs. It's trying to find a way to funnel the weirdness into a sort of palatable general audience's taste.
Did you have punchlines?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And that's when I started out doing stand-up out in Halifax too, started out doing it at a open mic night before the Yuck Yucks opened up. And there was a few of us doing that there. And there was a lot more license to sort of muck about. And then when the Yuck Yucks opened, it was terrifying because it was people who would come in were people on a date who lived in the suburbs.
Yeah.
It was just they weren't quote unquote comedy fans. They were just looking for a night of entertainment. And so I was I don't necessarily know these people in my world. I was they feel kind of foreign to my understanding of the world. So how do I make my comedy work for them? And Yuck Yucks was the only place in town, and I was really respectful of the weirdos I knew who managed to make it work. It kind of feels like making your jokes work for your family. You know what I mean? It's how do I communicate to people who are a lot like me, but also very different?
Did you make your family laugh?
Here and there, early on until I got to into that weird improv stuff. But they weren't wrong, not to laugh. But anyway, yeah. So doing that early Yuck Yuck stuff, those first few years was fully terrific. Just walking up there and figuring out how to maintain your taste level and your identity and what you want to do, but also merge that with what the audience is telling you they want, and try not to lose yourself completely in pandering, but also try not to just call them idiots and shut them out, find that middle ground, which I feel like all of my favorite comedians have done, all of my favorite comedians are weird, but still accessible to a broad base.
Who are your favorite comedians?
Well, when I was growing up, it would have been Eddie Murphy and then Seinfeld, and then a little later Dave Chappelle and then Mitch Hedberg, and then more recently Tig Notaro and Paul F. Tompkins.
Wow.
So a pretty wide range that gets a bit more niche as it goes. But Dave Chappelle's first special is probably still my favorite comedy thing. And it feels like the perfect example of a weirdo who's a goof telling the truly absurd jokes, but grounding them in enough reality that an audience that's not as weird as him is laughing hysterically the whole
I
time.
met him at the CSA Awards backstage.
Oh, nice.
I was wearing a really sweet blue dress, and he was like, "You're beautiful. Come over here."
Nice.
That was so fun.
And Steve Wright? Did you like Steve Wright?
I like Steve Wright here and there. He never, for some reason, like clicked for me exactly right, but I loved his delivery and a handful of jokes here and there. But I feel like Mitch Hedberg was kind of my Steve Wright, like who I'm sure like any other Mitch Hedberg fan would also love Steve Wright. But there was just something about it that didn't quite get over for me.
And there's a guy now that has a lot of specials, Anthony Jeselnik. Yeah. What do you think of him?
I like him a lot. He feels like kind of like a combo of like Stephen Wright and Andrew Dice Clay.
Yeah.
Like he's like, I like how much of a rude bad boy he is, but in his last special he pushes that so far that now he's feeling like a cartoon in a way that I like. Yeah. Like popping his leather jacket collar and
he can sort
smacking his lips between jokes.
He could sort of pull it off too, because he's kind of, if you saw him, you wouldn't go, "This is a comic" necessarily, because he's a good-looking dude and he sort of puts himself together. But he's so dry and he's so, and he breaks that. He breaks with reality and talks to the audience and talks about the jokes, and there's this whole other level to it. Yeah.
I would say that he walks a razor fine line because his subject matter. I mean, I do think it's cartoonish, but it's obviously also offensive. But the jokes are so well written that it's the kind of offensiveness that, at least I let go. I'm sure not everyone feels that way, but I'm like, listen, if you're clever enough, if you're funny enough, you can get away with a lot.
So is a comedy special like a stand-up thing? Is that something, like, I sort of feel like that's, I don't know that much about your career, but it just seems to me like that's an obvious sort of direction you might want to go. Like, is that something you're thinking about doing?
I don't know. I've had it on my mind for a while. I technically did a comedy now.
Yeah.
Technically?
I mean, I did a comedy 10 years ago, which I think technically is a comedy special. But it's weird to think about that I like recorded 45 minutes of material or whatever it was so long ago. Because now I like stress out about the idea of recording an hour, even though I've probably got hours and hours if I added it all up from the past like 10 years.
Netflix comedy special.
Yeah.
I mean, at the very least, I don't know. Like, I don't think I honor the stand-up craft as enough to like warrant a special. And I'm
gonna wag my finger at you.
That's the mother in her.
I'm wagging my finger at you. You should do it.
That's her mother.
Seems to me.
I just want a document of the stuff I've been doing to this point. I just want to be able to create a document so I never forget it.
That's called a special.
Yeah, that's right.
A
special or an album. Yeah.
Where's Picnicface at these days? That was your comedy troupe that you were with for a while.
Yeah, we split up after our show got canceled.
Because of the cancellation?
Well, it was kind of time, but yes, because we would have stuck together as long as we had that show, but everyone wanted to move to different places and people had different goals.
It sounds like some of the relationships still go. Like you and Andrew Bush are still collaborating, and
absolutely. I still work with Kyle Dooley a lot. Kyle and Evany work together a lot. I haven't worked with her so much, but
was Amy Matissio part of that group?
No, she was in Regina.
Right.
She's lovely too. And so, how long was Picnicface together?
I don't know, maybe 6 years. About that.
And you met in the Halifax scene.
Halifax, yeah. It was. I moved out there and. Kyle Dooley I knew from improv camp, which is from Canadian Improv Games. I was a counselor.
Improv all the way, all the time.
That's
even at camp.
Oh my goodness.
Is that like for kids? Like.
Yeah, it's for like.
Can I send my son there? Like, no, seriously.
Yeah. It would be probably from grades 8 through 12. I think would be the campers. Maybe a bit younger, but maybe not. And then. It's just like a week-long camp, if it still exists, which I think it does, in Saskatchewan, I think, unless it's moved. And
that's funny to begin with, just improv in Saskatchewan.
Oh, yeah, it's terrific, yeah. Make something out of nothing.
Can you imagine if it was for adults, though? Improv camp for adults in Saskatchewan?
I'd do
it. That's a special, a Netflix special.
I mean, I feel like improv camp for adults is clown camp.
It is clown camp.
I have friends who go out into the forest for a week.
Oh, no.
Come back, and they're clowns now.
Oh, no.
But it was good, yeah. That's very much a full extension of that kind of like cultish, wild, deep inside the improv world that I was a part of for a while.
So would there be improv in the bunkie would there be improv in the mess if the improv are the kids doing improv all the time?
That's not the intention. The intention is like they're there and they take classes and then there's shows at night. But in practice, yeah, if you've ever been around like theater students who can't turn it off, it's like that. I mean, I was that when I started doing improv. When I graduated, I joined a group in North Vancouver, and I was like volunteering with the Canadian Improv Games, and I was getting free lessons as like payment for volunteering, and then I was teaching workshops, so I was learning from like teaching, as they say. And I was just so obsessed with improv. I wanted to perform so much and didn't have outlets that we started.
Okay, here we go.
The cheesiest thing I've ever heard of. We called it, and listen, I'm breaking the first 2 rules by talking about this.
Oh,
We
no.
called it Improv Fight Club.
Oh, yes.
And we would essentially just like meet in parking garages late at night. It was so corny. And do improv for one another, form a circle, and just do scenes, do 2-person scenes. And of course, we all kind of laughed at the conceit of this, but also the reason we were doing it is because we were, or at least I was, like addicted to, I needed that outlet, and I didn't have like a regular stage to perform on, and we weren't doing like workshops or rehearsals regularly enough to scratch that itch. So there was a couple years where I was actually intolerable at parties among my friends because I just was like, why are we sitting here like chatting or watching a movie? Let's go outside and do some improv. Like, why are we fucking around?
Improv Smackdown.
Yeah. So I was deep in it for a while. And then that's only started to go away when I started to have outlets.
You know, I went through a very similar thing. I was part of the theater sports crowd in the early 80s here in Toronto. The Kids in the Hall came out of that, and Linda Cash came out of that, and Bruce Hunter. And who else was there? Anyway, there's lots of, really good performers who came out of that. And we, it wasn't all the time, but it was almost all the time, just because we would go and we would do these shows, and we'd do the classes together, we would go to party afterwards, and it was all these very funny people, or the people who, wanted to be funny. And I can understand that urge and that draw, right? Oh, and because it's less formal, you don't have to rely on a script and learning a script and putting up a script and getting all that goes into that. You just can do it right there.
That's the only one you can do without an audience. Like Kyle and I, when I first moved to Halifax, and we were the only 2 improvisers we knew, and there was no comedy scene out there. When we decided we were going to start trying to put together an improv show, we would just jam behind like this elementary school, behind his house, at night or wherever, just to try and like see what that felt like. It was interesting, like being in a city completely free of mentorship and free of peers who do it, free of expectation. The downside is that you don't have anyone to learn from, but the plus side is that you don't have any sort of like anxiety about
where it's going to go,
or like people being better than you and looking down on you, or like envy. You just don't have any of that. You're just completely in a vacuum. You just make your own thing. And then that sort of snowballed into like sketch and stand up, and it was all that same vibe.
I just had an image of somebody who lives near the school seeing a couple of guys standing out there waving their arms and playing it. What are they doing? I have no idea. They've been there since 8 o'clock.
Well, we always had Second City, sort of that potential Second City dangled in front of us. Like, this is what you can achieve, right? Mike Myers was part of theater sports at the time. He eventually went to Second City, and it was that was the unfortunate part of it, because we didn't have that sort of pure, we're doing this. There was not an ultimate goal, but there was a potential. You get into a Second City and you've got it made.
Yeah,
the idea.
And then you get a little bit disillusioned.
Yeah,
when you realize you only get to do this for a couple of years, and you got to figure out the rest of your life.
Yeah.
I think there's pros and cons to either. Like, I was so happy to exist in that bubble for a bit, and then I got to a point where I was like, I got to get out of Halifax because I need to learn more, and I'm not going to learn more from being the most experienced person in my circle.
Where did you go?
Here, Toronto.
I came to Toronto, of course. Now, do you write out of improv or for your sketches, or do you write?
Mix and match, but mostly from just like create a premise. or at the time in Halifax, like honestly, like when I was in Picnicface, we didn't know how to write sketches, and it shows. Like we would stumble into a good premise now and then, but Andy would always get so frustrated because he came from like a stronger premise background. But I would write a sketch and I would just be like, I hear this line being delivered in this way in my head. It would be funny if a wizard said this. And be like, so like, what's the sketch? And I'd be like, I don't know, but the wizard has to say this.
Working backwards from the wizard.
And then we'd sort of like end up in a lot of, in hindsight, kind of mushy dialogue sketches. I had a lot of sketches that were just two characters having a conversation. And it's not necessarily what I like about sketch now. I definitely prefer sort of stronger premise, but the spirit of that, I like.
Mm-hmm.
I like that.
Who made you laugh when you were a kid?
Probably Eddie Murphy the most.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then like, I watched a lot of The Simpsons. Bart made me laugh. Homer made me laugh.
Mm-hmm.
I watched a lot of In Living Color.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I was really into like black comedy when I was a kid. I think it was just like a lot of suburban kids in the early 90s, just very into black culture, period.
Yeah. And did your parents get that?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, everyone thought Eddie Murphy was funny.
True,
You know, there's no,
true.
I don't know how much they liked In Living Color. That was like a bit coarser.
Yeah.
You know, but
Racy.
Yeah, a bit racy. But you know, they understood why I liked it. You know.
In Living Color was airing at a time when I did not have a television.
Saved by the Bell was aired when
I was
didn't
doing
have
that old
television.
movementy, like, you know, dialogue-free kind of, or take a work of literature and parse it, cut it up, and put a bunch of actors together moving around doing contact improv. That's my thing. It's such a different world.
It was odd when I found out that contact improv wasn't improv related necessarily, and that it was like, what?
It's more like dance.
You can't get a laugh from contact improv?
Yeah, I'm out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've never done anything like that, like movementy stuff. I've just done like here and there. I'll do like an improv festival where a teacher from Columbia will come up and teach us how they do improv down there, and it'll have a bit more of like a movement, physical dance component. But I always feel a little bit silly. Yeah. So I don't really know what I'm doing.
But you in rollerblading. You were rollerblading in that. What was it called? Roller Town.
I was roller skating.
Roller skating.
Yeah, I learned how to do it.
Oh my God.
2011.
I know how to move these hips to a point. You know, 2011 is that when it was?
2011.
Yes, that's
Roller
right.
Town, and this wonderfully, appropriately cheesy preview for it.
Oh yeah.
Did you do the announcing for that?
The announcing.
Like there's an over voice.
I don't think so.
No, it's because it sounds like it could be you. Very funny. Very
Thank you.
funny. Yeah.
Another thing that was created not from knowing how to write a movie, just from being like, I think this moment would be funny. Let's build out from there. Yeah. Which is why when you watch it, you're like, boy, there's some real funny moments. I don't know how much it hangs together, but it's a fun world.
But you learn, right? Every time you do this kind of stuff, you learn.
Every time you fail extremely publicly, you learn. The shame pushes you forward.
No, this is not a failure. It's Space Riders, Division Earth. Do you do the costumes for that?
No, my God, no. No. That was our friend Hannah Pewley, who I think designed all of that stuff.
Wow.
Yeah.
Those are fantastic.
Yeah, they're so great. Yeah. Oh, yeah, she gave me styrofoam muscles. So I finally had a nice big body. That was my dream.
Did you spend a lot of time in the mirror with looking at those?
Yeah, yeah.
This is what it could be.
Yeah, I was drooling at myself. It was nice.
And you have the distinction of having 32 million views for a voice thing you did.
That's right.
For Power Thirst. How did that come about?
That's kind of funny because Andy used to do all of our videos when we were posting sketches on YouTube. Early days. So like 10 years ago, like early YouTube. And he would direct them and edit them. He had all the equipment. He was the only one who knew how to do that stuff. And we would try to have a video per live show. And we'd write a new live show every week. So we're just trying to kind of churn out material and maintain an audience and keep them interested in Halifax. Teach ourselves.
So you did that voice?
Yeah.
That way down there.
Yeah, the sort of yelling gravelly yell.
Yeah.
Kenyans.
Yeah.
No, okay.
Yeah. But that video came about because one week Andy was fed up and he was like, I'm not making anything this week. Like, I'm tired. You guys forced me to do too much, which was fair. So Scott and I got together and brainstormed videos that we could do without any technical ability. And we knew basic editing that Andy had taught us on Final Cut, but we didn't know how to film, and we didn't have a camera, and we didn't know how to edit in any sort of elegant way. So we were like, okay, well, we'll do images on a screen. We can cut from image to image, and we can just have an audio track, keep it short. So we wrote a couple sketches that were like that, and Power Thirst was one of them. Yeah, and so I think Scott edited that together, and it's me yelling into, we didn't have a microphone, so I'm yelling into like an earpiece, like
a headset?
Earphone, yeah. And then he was using a really terrible program, but that's kind of what created the distortion. So we tried to recreate it later with good programs, so we could never get it back to what it was. It always sounded a little more hollow.
For those of you listening, go to your computer, go to YouTube, and look for Power Thirst.
Yeah, I mean,
it'll brighten your day.
Absolutely.
I don't know how well it's aged. Like, comedy is really
it's
caught
aged
up to that
just
level
fine.
of aggression.
It's aged just fine.
It looks retro at this point, you know, in a good
Absolutely.
way. So how did you? What was your first understanding about? Was it your first understanding of something that could go viral?
Oh yeah. I mean, we liked sketch troupes that had gone viral, like The Lonely Island exists. By the time we started making stuff, The Lonely Island had already been hired to SNL based on their internet work. But we were like really into them. We were really into Derek Comedy, which was Donald Glover's college sketch troupe who made stuff online. And then we were really into Good Neighbor, which was oh my God, I'm forgetting Kyle Mooney's.
Kyle Mooney, right?
And Beck Bennett,
right?
The two guys who are on
SNL now, yeah.
But those are the three troupes that we loved doing like online work. So we had seen like viral videos. We were aware of the possibility, but at that moment, that wasn't happening that often on YouTube. Like, YouTube was a new platform, so I'm not sure where it was happening. Anyway, maybe I'm getting my timeline a little confused.
Yahoo?
Possibly Yahoo. Possibly
MySpace.
E-Bombs World. MySpace, yeah. People were getting big through MySpace. But,
YouTube was around in 2011.
Yeah, no, this would have been like 2006 that we started out. Oh my God. 2007, 2006, when we made Power Thirst. So long ago.
I still think YouTube was out there.
YouTube started the year that we made our first video. I remember, because I remember Andy saying, "There's a new thing called YouTube. We should get involved." I got a good feeling.
It just celebrated some anniversary, not a really big one, like 10 or so. Was it 10 years of YouTube?
Maybe 15 would
15.
make all of this
make sense.
But anyway, it was definitely our first experience of that, and it was also good coincidental timing because Funny or Die was new also. We posted all of our videos to Funny or Die. No one was watching them on YouTube because we didn't know how to like get the word out. So we posted them all to Funny or Die. The week after, Will Ferrell started like getting more involved with Funny or Die to try and like boost the profile. And one of the ways he did that was he started a column called Will's Picks. He would just pick a few of the uploaded videos and write about what he liked about them and just promote them, try and promote the site from within. And so he picked two of our videos, one of which was Power Thirst, and then it exploded on Funny or Die, and then that attention redirected people back to our YouTube. And then things got a bit easier for us.
Nice.
Yeah.
People know you're the guys from that Power Thirst.
Yeah, it was the kind of thing where it's like all of a sudden people who didn't know anything about Canadian comedy were like, "Yeah, but Halifax has comedy." Like, well, sort of. We do comedy. We are in Halifax.
That's a lot of responsibility.
It was. And we shouldered it for a time. And then we got out of Dodge.
And you would continue on with the live shows and doing videos every week. And
yeah, but it got harder because we started to get opportunities, and it was really hard to figure out how to juggle that stuff. Because Power Thirst was like one of those sketches where we stumbled into a premise.
Of course.
Yeah, so it was like Power Thirst definitely has a premise that's like satirizing energy drinks commercials, and also satirizing like quote unquote men's advertising, aggressive testosterone based men's advertising. So that was like a clean premise, but like I said, most of what we were doing didn't have that, and we didn't quite know how to do that yet. It was like we were still so new to it, and you figure that stuff out as you go. But it was kind of a mixed blessing to have Power Thirst blow up, because we started getting phone calls from like producers and stuff who wanted to work with us, and we were like, not ready.
No.
So it was tough, because instead of, you know, sort of organically exploring like how to get better at sketch, all of a sudden we had a book deal. So now it's like we start ignoring our sketch to try and learn how to write a book, but that takes a lot of work. So now we're like as new to writing a book as we had been to writing sketches 2 years ago. But instead of just getting better at sketches, we're just stumbling through like failing at a book. And then we're also writing this movie. And then we started like pitching TV shows. So it was just like all of a sudden we were being spread very thin. And instead of getting better at sketch, we were kind of hitting a wall.
It's funny, I have a friend, he passed away recently, but writer, novelist, Wiesen Choi. And he often say that the only thing that's harder to deal with than failure is success.
Mm-hmm.
Because, you know, you have a big success and suddenly you have all these opportunities which are competing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's challenging, yeah.
It is, yeah. You gotta, I mean, you gotta try and find the time and keep your wits about you and just
set
try
your
and keep
priorities.
learning. Yeah, set priorities. I still struggle with that, but, you know, it's like good. I don't think anyone succeeds in a way that feels comfortable. You know, I feel like everyone hits walls and then recovers.
Or if they do, then fuck them.
Yeah.
Well, and then there's the success that you think is going to last.
Yeah.
And that's, you get surprised when it's not there anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I think the worst kind of success is when it happens before you've failed.
Mm-hmm.
That's the worst one.
Mm-hmm.
When you get handed so much, and even if you've earned it early on, and then you think, like you said, that's going to last forever, and then the first time you do fail, you don't have any antibodies.
No,
your immune system isn't prepared for anything. Yeah.
Yeah, that's hard on some young. I've seen that happen to some young people, and it's actually really hard because when they crash really hard, and if they've never had any failure before that, it's the probability is kind of high that they're being jerks.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Because they think that they think they are what people are telling them.
Yeah, and then I've seen it happen, and it's kind of heartbreaking.
Yeah, I was once told you have to, if you read the good reviews and believe the good reviews, you have to believe the bad reviews as well.
Right.
You can't ignore those.
Yeah.
So, a book.
Yeah, there's a book.
There's a book. Oh, so a book happened.
Yeah, we wrote one.
Excellent.
It's called Picnicface Canada. It was a great experience to learn how not to write a book.
Jeez, I'm seeing a theme.
Listen, not everyone I worked with would describe the process in this way. I have a tendency to be a bit down on things, but that doesn't mean I think there's good qualities to everything we did, but in some cases more bad qualities than good.
Should we buy this book?
I don't know.
I
don't even know if I'm responsible. I think HarperCollins would forget that they ever made a book with us.
When was it published?
Around that time that all that other stuff was happening, 2011, 2012, 2013, around there. It was called Picnicface Canada, and it was, since then we've, it's like, you don't even know what a comedy book is supposed to look like when you start writing it. But since then, the Stats Canada book, that Twitter account made up of Toronto comedians who published a book, helped me see the best way to make a comedy book, which is just take a super simple premise and just do that on every page and keep it focused and simple, and then just maximize the comedy within that simplicity. And we just didn't have that. We didn't make that choice. So instead we tried to do 24 different things. And there's long articles, short articles, little punchlines, images, fake manuals, parody stuff, completely invented stuff, fantasy stuff, real world satire. It's everything.
It sounds good.
It's, if you want to not understand why a book was written,
if
you want to read a book.
But it sounds to me like the kind of book that you leave in the bathroom and you read one bit one day and you come back to it the next day.
Bathroom book.
Is it?
Some people loved this book, and most people don't know about this book. And so it's hard for me to tell if it's any good, because I've definitely gotten compliments on it, and most of those compliments should go to Ebony Rosen and Scott Vroman, who wrote The Lion's Share. It's got It's got good qualities, I think, but I think the process of creating it was so scarring, and that it did so poorly in sales that afterwards it was hard for me not to like just disavow it. But I think that's probably.
But it's unfair. Canada, you know. I mean, it's like if Stephen Colbert comes out with a book, or Jon Stewart comes out with a book that his whole team has pulled together, you know, that they just have a huge market, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But.
And a better understanding of how to even approach something like that. But you know what? I'll say this with confidence. If we were ever to write a second book,
I'm gonna go look for it. I'm gonna order it.
Me too.
Are you?
Yeah, because I'm actually like you're. I feel like you're right now in this whole interview in this state of mind where you're just sort of like you're putting like right now you're like, yeah, I did it and that failed and I did this and that failed too. I learned a lot. I did this and that failed. But I just. From the work of yours that I've seen, and I haven't, you know, I've saw Cavendish and I've seen little bits of other things. I think that I'm going to go and order that book when I get home, probably maybe on my way home on a little Amazon machine, and then I'll let you know whether I think this is this like, oh, we didn't know how to write a book is deserved, or whatever. Because we'll see. We'll see.
So you do a lot of animation voices. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a big thing of your career right now.
Yeah, right now I'm playing a character I call Grumpy Man.
Oh, let's hear Grumpy Man.
Yes,
no, that's the one I'm already doing.
Guy
without confidence.
Guy without confidence. No, but you know, you do the in Cupcake and Dino.
Cupcake and Dino, yeah.
Dino, yeah. You do a voice for that.
I do Dino.
You do Dino, and what's that voice?
Oh, that's just your classic, like, just my own voice, but a little bit more up in my nose, and a sweet guy who just wants everything to go well all the time.
That's great. Is that your sentence that you use to get into it?
No, I don't have one. The sentence that I usually use is, Cup! Cup, we gotta do it! Yeah. Oh, boy, I can't wait to do this.
Okay, can you give us a little Dino meets Grumpy Guy?
Do you want Grumpy Guy, the guy I've been doing this whole interview?
Yeah.
So I wrote this book, and you know, obviously it sucked. I bet it didn't suck. I bet it was great. You wrote a book. Wow, what I wouldn't give to write a book. I tried to write one once, and I ran out of ink. No, we typed this one on a computer. Computer, a word I'm not familiar with.
I think you should take Dino around with you everywhere you go, so he can be the balance for Grumpy Man.
You're
don't
right.
you think? Don't you think? What would Dino say in this scenario?
A voice of optimism on my shoulder. Yeah, that's true. I only played two types of characters. I played the most optimistic characters you've ever encountered, and I play absolute grumpy pessimists. And I'm only realizing that now, and it's driving a wedge into my soul.
No, because you're taking Dino with you everywhere. And listen, Dino works, right? Dino got you an outstanding ACTRA Award for voice, right?
That's right.
Yeah, so it works for you.
The people have spoken.
The people have spoken.
They want Dino to stay.
The ACTRA Toronto people know of what they speak.
I wouldn't be Is this going to be my my Johnny Depp after he plays Captain Jack Sparrow, where I just decide I like Dino so much that I'm going to be that forever from now on?
No, you just have to bring him along and speak to him. It might be a little bit
I'll
weird.
I'll be Dino forever now.
Nice. That's nice. Okay, well, the rest of the interview, you got to be Dino.
Okay. Don't mind if I do.
What were you going to say?
No, I think everybody should have a little Dino in their pocket. Especially, you know, I mean, it's such a weird business we're in, right? Like, it's such a weird business because there's all those auditions that you go into with all this enthusiasm and expectation and hard work, and then you never know which one you're going to get, and then you get it and you're at the top of the world, and then next thing you know, you don't know where your next job is. It's that up and down thing. Like, every actor, every self-employed artist needs a little Dino in their pocket.
That's
they can
so
pull
true.
Go, you did okay. It's going to be all right tomorrow. You never know. And besides, look, the garden's growing. Everyone has to have that voice in their head.
I got the old Jewish guy in my head. He's always there. The old Jewish guys. I'm turning into the old Jewish guy. That's what it is. You know what I call your show? Cavendish. Because, you know, that's the way we say it. It's Cavendish.
Almost Yiddish, I think, unless it's offensive for me to have said that.
No, it's fine.
Yiddish. I don't know anything about the Yiddish. What is a Yiddish? Is it something you can eat?
It's sort of like Yid, but it's Yiddish. It's almost Yid.
Oh,
It's Yiddish. Yid-like. Yid-like crisis. That's a different thing.
Oh, fun.
Fun.
We're having
Fun.
fun.
Until we have a sigh.
So, what have you got? Big goals, projects, secrets? Spill it, Mark Little.
Or Dino.
I'm going to break into the CBC offices and force them all to renew Cavendish, despite their stated goal.
That'd be fun.
That'll work.
I think I've learned one thing about this country. Brute force is the only thing that gets it done. Big goals. I don't know. I just keep on keeping on. Making a season 2 of my cartoon Gary and His Demons right now. And I want it, here's my huge goal, I want it to be better than the first season.
That's a lofty goal.
I want to see signs of improvement.
What does Gary sound like?
Oh, Gary's up here, and this is the other voice I just do all the time. It's sort of this grumpy guy who speaks with a gravelly voice, but sometimes he goes high. That's also the voice that I play when I'm playing anyone's dad. Dan Burns' dad, Andy Bush's dad. Here I am! Oh my God. That guy.
Does he ever speak to Dino?
We're getting into some real Dr. Phil antics here. I'm into it. Okay, let me see what that would sound like. So what was this? You're like a dinosaur who can talk, big dinosaur with little legs? Yes. But sometimes I have big legs. Only when I've encountered a potion of some sort. Potion. Okay. Get that on like a little adventure or something? Yes. I'll go on an adventure seeking a potion, and if it all works out, I get one. But I have to share it, which is the best part of all. Right. Sort of learn a moral from it. Yes, I do.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Mark Little,
Thank you so much.
coming in here.
Is that the last thing I'm going to do?
Yes, because we don't want the real guy.
What a nightmare.
Unless there's a demon in there that you'd like to bring out.
No, I don't have any demons in there.
I thought you said Gary and his demons.
Well, that's Gary. When I play demons, listen, I never go too hard with, there's your classic demon. It's sort of like we go, you know what I mean, down there.
Yeah.
But then some of the demons in that world are sort of more just run-of-the-mill, see him in their store front kind of demon, Like there's a demon toy shop owner named Gale, and he's sort of up here, and he wants to just quietly make a suggestion that possibly we could undertake this in a way that would be less perilous to our lives. And then he perceives that no one else is taking a liking to that idea, and he says, no problem, yeah, just a thought. Keep going. So there's Gale.
That's a great one.
You like that guy?
Yeah.
That guy's nice.
Does he have a name?
Galade.
Oh, Galade, right.
He's the demon
Galade.
toy shop owner. He sort of makes the toys like the board game they get sucked into.
What does his hair look like?
He's got a big round bald head.
Oh, because
He's
your
shaped
hair,
like a bowling ball.
your hair moved so much, and that you really was just bouncing around to that character.
Your hair, a lot of
like
character.
a rooster.
Yeah.
Yeah. I should tell the animators they made a bad choice.
Oh no, not a good choice to tell them they made a bad choice.
Solace Animation, nothing better. Boutique animation studio here in Toronto.
Mm-hmm.
We got a good animation industry here
Mm-hmm.
in Canada.
We do.
Mm-hmm.
It's fun.
Yeah.
Hard to break into. Many people want to.
Is it hard?
It's hard to. Yeah.
I push all of my friends to do it because it's so good.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I snuck in through the back door because I became Dino because I was in the writer's room. And I was like helping them create this character. And we were talking about like, we want to have these archetypes for these two brothers. One of them's like a sort of serious go-getter. And one of them's like the silly sort of fun-loving lover of life, lover of adventure, lover of his brother. But we were like, we don't want just like small, angry, big, dumb. So we were just working out the nuances of them over a few days. And I sort of just started doing the voice, being like, what if he's more like, he's not a dumb guy, but he's just a guy who really looks on the bright side. And if there's no bright side, well, I bet you just need to turn it over and see if it's bright underneath. So I was just like doing that voice to try and like map out where we could go with the character. And then slowly they were like, we like this.
Mm.
Like, get the producers in here. It was still hard to convince the producers to cast me because I had no experience. But it worked out in the end, and it would not have worked out if I had just gone in auditioning with that voice, because they would have been like, I don't know, it seems a little round around the edges. It's not as like overtly what we would call capital C cartoony, but they came around to it.
And the secret now is getting into the writer's room.
That's the new secret, and that's easier because there are far fewer writers of animation, of anything in this country than there are actors. And kids animation is so fun to write. It's 11 minutes, totally manageable.
Mm-hmm.
Get yourself some story writing, some screenplay books, some TV teleplay books, and figure out how to tell just a super simple story, and then sneak your way into those writers' rooms.
Or maybe you could teach a course in it.
Yeah. I would love to, because I love to impart wisdom, but I don't like the pressure of people expecting to come away better. I feel like it's a lot of pressure. Like, I'm really open to people saying, do you want to just meet up and tell me how to do this? I'm into that.
Create any course you want.
I guess that's true. Every time I've done it, it's been really fun, but it's the most stressful thing I've ever done is teaching. Yeah. I feel so much pressure to have people everyone in the room, I need to agree that we are getting better, otherwise I feel like I'm wasting their money and their time.
Could Dino teach a class?
He's the ideal teacher.
Did you have to do tutorials and stuff when you were grad students? Did you have to do TA work? No?
I did do a little bit, but it wasn't like it was just sort of taking over the lecture here and there, and then mark and grading mostly. I wasn't like running tutorials or anything like that. It was only for a little bit. I know we tried to wrap this up, but we cracked it back open.
Fun, I
know.
Still going.
That's good.
Well, I tried once. Now it's your turn there, young lady.
Well, we did. We felt sort of at the same time.
Yeah.
Well, you know what?
What?
Do you have to be somewhere?
Stuff that cat back in the bag and put a bow on it.
You're a pretty cool cat.
All right, then.
It's up to you guys.
Thank you so much, Mark Little.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
It was really
awesome.
fun.
And Dino and all your characters.
I know you can't see us, but we're all putting our teeth back in.
Yeah.
We're straightening our backs.
I put my shoes back on.
Yep.
I know, I took them off.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye, Mark.
Bye. Wow, that was a great interview with Mark Little.
He's a really interesting guy. I really enjoyed what he was saying about going from the writer's room to the voice. That was really interesting.
That was good advice. And he's I think he's in agreement that he's going to take Dino with him as his good angel on his shoulder.
Yeah, so we should just recap, because he's got work in a lot of different projects, and you can listen to him on a podcast.
Yes, called My Gorgeous Son. You can get it on iTunes, My Gorgeous Son. And you can watch Cavendish on Gem, the new app from CBC. And Gary and his Demons is going to a second season.
Mm-hmm. And there's also Cupcake and Dino, another cartoon.
Amazing. Well, that's it for today. ACTRA Spotlight is produced by Cass Enright and recorded at ACTRA Toronto's very own Gordon Pinson studio.
I'm Jean Yoon.
And I'm David Gale, and keep watching Canadian.
See you next time.